Good evening, and this is going to be a Mike's Fun Page instructional video. Here situated to my left is a 2003 Dodge Caravan with it's due for inspection, and a mechanic told my aunt that she was going to need rear brake drum shoes before next inspection, so I'm here to verify that, and I have all the parts and tools to go ahead and get started on the job. Just a few quick notes before I get started. I haven't made a video in a while. Thoughts and prayers go out to Carol Shelby's family. If you haven't heard, Carol Shelby lost his battle with heart disease, and he's been battling that for the past 5 or 6 decades. So sad news on the automotive front, and I hope someday I get a chance to meet him, whenever that may be. Not on this earth, obviously, and that's just my thoughts. And real quick, before I get started, I claim not to be a professional. This is just a how-to instructional video to possibly show you guys how this is done, this particular job. If you don't feel comfortable doing it, take it to a professional mechanic and get it done. I'm not showing you the proper way to do it, it's just the way I do it. So if you're not comfortable with fixing it because it is a brake component, take it to a professional mechanic. You can hit me up on YouTube or mikesfunpage@hotmail.com if you live in the Philadelphia Tri-County area, and I can redirect you to a what's the word I'm looking for, a reputable mechanic, since I'm familiar with a couple hundred of them in the area, and I would be more than glad to suggest and give you the guy's name and number, and you can take it there to get repaired. If you want to do this will save you some money, and with the proper tools and patience, it's a relatively easy task to do. So with that, I'm going to take a quick break, and then I'm going to get into the proper way to jack up the rear of this Dodge Caravan and explain a few things to you. I'll be back. Okay, I raised the level of the camera a little bit. I'm just going to leave the intro video the way it is because nobody wants to see me anyway. They just want to know what I'm talking about. So, the first thing that we're going to do is I'm going to get this tripod set up and situate myself with the rear of the vehicle. A couple quick notes. What you want to make sure is if you don't have a lift and you're doing this on the driveway or outside, which is what we're doing, you want to jack each side of the vehicle up and secure the vehicle with jack stands. There's usually a cross member along the bottom there in the back of these vans that you can put 2 jack stands and keep the van at equal length, because you want to remove both sides because excuse me, the drums are a mirror of each side, and before you get started you want to take pictures of everything to make sure that you got an idea of how everything goes on a drum brake system. I'll start the video, show you how to remove the wheels and the drums, and I'll go over all the components and what we're going to be replacing. What you want to do is use a 4-way lug wrench and loosen the lug nuts on the back of the vehicle before you jack it up. You want to make sure you have safety glasses if you don't wear corrective lenses, and you want to make sure you're very careful making sure the vehicle is Alright, we'll be right back and we'll start getting these back wheels off. Before you get started, I neglected my 4-way, so I'm going to use this stock Chrysler lug removal, which will work. Now I'll just torque them with the lug wrench. A couple things you need for drum brake tools. I got some brake clean. Everybody knows how that looks. I don't need to show you that. You need a floor jack, and there's some jack stands over there. A couple of good things to have is a pair of locking needle nose vice grips. And this is a brake multi-tool. This is the proper spring removal tool for drum brakes. Has the spring popper here on the end. I'll show you how this works when I get into it. Has the anchor pin to pull the spring up and put it on the anchor pin. It has the spring remover, and then I have another tool for them little anchor pins that are going to be located in here. Now, I'll get into the brake system a little more in depth when I get everything jacked up, and we'll start rolling the video again. We'll be right back. Alright, well, we removed the wheel. I noticed there's a groove in this one stud here. We might be able to get away with, tightening it over, but a wise thing to do in the future is to replace this one stud. It looks like somebody might have over-torqued it. We're going to remove the other wheel, but I just wanted to show you how the drum assembly looks before we remove, the other side. A lot of people beat these with like wood mauls and stuff, which you can do. Sometimes you need to. I would use more of like a dead blow hammer, like this. I mean, a maul is a little overkill, because it usually forms like a rust ridge. All I have to do is take a little bit of this PV blaster and just hit these real quick in the studs, and then right around here, just to keep it, freed up a little bit. It's like a penetrating oil. And if you notice here, there's little 8mm bolt holes, and that's what we're going to try first after we remove the other wheel. I have two 3 or 4 inch 8mm metric bolts that you can run down into these holes, and what that does is draw the actual drum off of the hub. Now this is the 3rd generation Caravan drum braking system. The first previous 2 generations had bearings that would actually need to get repacked because you're right there and they easily fall out when you take them off. This particular model is a floating sealed hub assembly, so this is a fairly easier setup than the previous 2 generation Caravans. I believe most of the new Caravans all have rear disc brakes now. I think anything after 2011 for Mopar is all rear disc in the back now. So we're going to cut to a break, and then we're going to get the other wheel off, and then I'm going to show you how this comes off. Now you want to get yourself a couple 8mm by like 3 or 4 inch long hardened steel bolts, and then you want to try, you just thread them into these holes here, like so. And then what you do is evenly tighten them down. This doesn't pull the drum out. Then what you need to do is adjust it down. As you can see, it's already drawing. See, Chrysler engineers aren't all dumb. You work on a GM, so a lot of them don't have them. You gotta bang them to death. But Chrysler learned from the Germans, and Honda's been using this design for years. And as you can hear, I'm watching the drum pull out. You just alternate sides, try to keep it even as possible. You can see the rust falling off. There you go. Now see, this is stuck on a little bit, so he's going to stop there. We're going to give it just a couple center whacks to try to loosen up the ridge. In this drum oil, we did have to use the hammer, and this anchor pin jumped out here, so it's not a big deal, but these shoes are down to the rivets just about on the front side, and the back side are about 2/32. So we're going to replace the shoes. I noticed here this left rear wheel cylinder is leaking, so I'll have to go get one of them. Key is to take some pictures, and you want to make sure you lay out everything in the same way that you're taking it off. We're gonna get started. You can. This anchor pin already came out here, so what I'm gonna do is reach back here and hold this nail. And then that comes off like that. Pull a nail out. The other nail already fell out when we were getting the drum off. Now, a lot of times, you take the anchor pins off, you can just pull all this out, assembled. But if it gives you trouble, just take this. You want to see which one's on here first. And, you want to try to get in there underneath the spring. Sometimes these are a pain in the ass. Almost. Sometimes they don't want to come out easy. What you can do is you can even get it in here since I got new hardware. Actually, sometimes these things are you want to try to get underneath of this spring. Let me see something here. See, I can actually just lift this up out of here without hurting the wheel cylinder. I want to pop this one tension spring off though, so I'm trying to never are easy, trust me. Sometimes you gotta improvise a little bit. There you go. I got all new hardware, so I'm not worried about making any of the springs. And then this goes up underneath this pin here. This is like a spring brace here. That's the top spring. Just want to lay it out. Once that comes off, this emergency brake assembly, the strut bar comes out. I got a new one of these also. You want to lay that down also. And you have your emergency brake assembly. And then your cable goes on here in this end. So what I'm going to do is pull this out. And this is the bottom brake bar. emergency adjuster is. It's marked L for left. We'll have to remove that from there. And then this is where the emergency brake cable's hooked up to, which we're going to have to remove. This thing's probably seized and don't want to move, but we'll have to take that off. But yeah, let me see here, pull this boot. It's hard to tell if that's grease or brake fluid, so we'll give it our spray, clean it up. I want to make sure it's leaking.
Yeah, your microphone fell over. Pick that up.
Well, we're going to replace all the stuff that we don't have on the new shoes. We're going to do a transfer, but I noticed that this left rear wheel cylinder is leaking. So I'm going to have to take a walk and get my car, and I'm going to have to go to the parts house and get 2 wheel cylinders. Hopefully they come off pretty easy, and you know, no breaking lines, because I don't have the time or the patience. Now what we want to do is, when we have this off, is there's 6 rub points on the back end plate of the drum system. What you want to do is take a piece of sandpaper or a wire brush, just give them a good cleaning. Try to get as much of this surface rust off as you can. I mean, it doesn't have to be perfect. And what you're going to want to do is anti-seize or lube each of them points. How you gonna do? As you can see, I got the line out of the wheel cylinder. I got the line out of the wheel cylinder. Probably see pretty good. I'm gonna come back. It was fairly simple. Whatever you do when you're dealing with wheel cylinders, is, the metal lines tend to seize up inside the wheel cylinder. You want to get some of this PV blaster and spray it for like a good 40 minutes and let it sit. Fortunately, I had to run and get the wheel cylinder, so I sprayed it repeatedly before and when I came back. And on the way out, because if you snap the line, you have to go get a flaring tool if you don't have one, and actually re-flare the line and put a new piece of brake line on it. So, 2 bolts off the wheel cylinder, the line goes in. After we get the side together, both sides together, everything replaced and complete the system, we'll go through them steps later, I'll show you. But just match up the wheel cylinder. Got the old one right here. And it looks the same. So, that's it. We'll be back. Again, there's the installed wheel cylinder, and the parts that I sanded, I put some anti-seize compound where the shoe glides. I'll make sure you do that. No. Recording? Alright, I got some noise behind me, but as you can see, I got the wheel cylinder in, and now I'm going to put the new adjuster together. You want to make sure you thread these all the way in and anti-seize the threads like I did here. Just thread these down. till it's pretty much all the way in. That just sits on there like that. Yep. Okay. Let's put this on like this. That's the adjuster. If you looked on the new hardware for the adjuster, they're marked. Somewhere to the left, but I'm sure you can look at it. Looks the same. Okay, we're going to take a break and see what else we can get assembled. Well, we got all the new springs and hardware in place, new adjuster, new wheel cylinder. Tell you what, I mean, it's pretty straightforward. You just look at pictures and, you know, everything goes in. I put the anchor pins in first to keep the shoes mounted in the wheel cylinders. These go behind this bar at the bottom. The adjuster goes in. I started with the adjuster, the strut bar, and then the blue tension spring, and drew everything forward. The bottom spring I did, and then I did this bottom tension spring, and it all went in pretty good. So we're going to get started on the other side, and hopefully get the wheel cylinder out with no problem like this one. And get the drums cleaned up, get the brakes bled, and you know, see it, you know, back it up a couple times and get it adjusted. So we'll check back. All right, we're gonna repeat the same steps. I showed the takedown in the first video, I believe, right? Yeah. Okay. Same thing. Remove, you know, the top spring. Remove the anchor pins. Remove the top spring. Remove the adjuster. It's just mirror on the right side. And then we get all this back together. I'll show you the bleeding process real quick, and the adjustment process. Excuse me, I got a little bit of a cold, so that's why I sound like that. I got a headache, so. But anyway, when we bleed the system, we want to bleed this side first because it's the furthest away from the master cylinder, and it takes longer for all the air to get out. So keep that in mind whenever you're working, or you're replacing a hydraulic part on a brake system. You want to bleed the furthest away from the master cylinder. In this case, the master cylinder, like on most vehicle, is on the driver's side under the hood. So this side will be bled first, and the other side will be bled second. Okay, now we're ready to prep the drums. They just slide right on, self-explanatory. You want to make sure with the new brake drum, take it. You definitely need to do it on the inside. There's all kinds of like packing oil, and they call it cosmoline. This stuff on the outside usually burns off, but I like to clean the whole drum. Clean it with brake clean, wipe it off, and then it's ready to install. Alright, well, we got the new drums on. The shoes were cockamamie a little bit, so I had to play with them, but they're dragging a little bit, which is what you want. You can hear it. And let's come over to the other side. Got this microphone because the other one sucks. This side's a little tighter, but the self-adjuster will, you know, pick up any of that extra slack. I'm going to adjust the other side a little bit with the star wheel in the back, and then we're going to bleed the brakes. Alright, we got the van back together, the brakes bled out. We're going to take it for a test ride, back the van up a couple times, and what that does when you back it up, the self-adjusters will set. Well, we finished up that 2003 Dodge Caravan rear brake shoe job, and there's a couple things when I was reviewing the videos. I just got home. Before I wanted to finish up, I wanted to just say that I never showed the bleeding process. I'm going to explain it real quick. It's fairly easy. Pardon me, I'm losing my voice because I'm fighting off a cold, but basically what you do after you get everything back together, Before you put the wheels back on, you want to get in the vehicle, pump up the brakes 3 times, start at the right wheel in the rear, pump the brakes. You're going to need 2 people if you don't have a one-man bleeder, but what you do is you pump the brakes 3 times, hold the brakes to the floor, open the bleeder screw on the wheel cylinder. You're most likely going to see air. With them still depressed on the brake, you want to close it. Have them repeat them steps 2 to 3 times until you see a steady stream of brake fluid coming out the back of the bleeder. In some cases, a lot of people like to use a piece of hose so the brake fluid doesn't get all over the vehicle. Most vehicles you can do it, and not have to worry about that. And if you do get some on the vehicle, you can just use some brake cleaner. Anyway, if you have any questions, comments, or need help with anything, again, I'm not a professional, but I'll be more than glad to help you with anything I can. I do more than just review beer, obviously. If you have any questions or comments, mikesfunpage, hotmail.com, or more frequently checked, the message center on the YouTube page. You can hit me up or comment with a message or a message. Again, have a good day. This has been another Mike's Fun Page how-to video. Oh, and real quick, somebody wants to say hi. This is my cat, Lance. He's just like a dog. I'm going to let him go. He probably just wants food. That's it. Again, this has been another Mike's Fun Page video. Thanks.